It's Andy.
Hi, it's Dave.
Hi, it's Kirk.
Welcome to the ADK Rock and Metal Channel, and today we are going to be having a kind of a little bit retrospective look back at Battle to the Masses Hitchin 2024, the heats. So we had 4 heats this year instead of the previous 8, which I think we're all very, very grateful for. As that did feel, after 2 years of doing it, I think everyone was starting to get fatigued when you got to heat 5, heat 6, etc. So we've had 4 heats. We're now ready to go into semi-finals in about 10 days' time. So we know who are our semi-finalists, our 8 bands, but I thought it'd be quite good to go back and look at each of the heats, what kind of stood out for us, what did we think of the bands going through it. Now, heat 1, I think we were all at heat 1. If I remember rightly. I know I missed Heat 2 and Heat 3, but in Heat 1 we had All to the Sky, Millstone, Dead Flesh, and Hereward. So, Andy, your thoughts on that particular heat?
Well, the opening one, as pretty much every year, was really well attended. I was pleasantly surprised. You know, pretty decent turnout for Heat number 1, and it's one of those where I'm sort of fans. Just remind us again who it was, Dave. Hereward, All to Sky, Dead Flesh,
and Millstone.
Right, so there's four bands I really like and follow, and it's a shame at any stage of this competition when you have to sort of depart the proceedings. But I think I'm right in saying Hereward kicked things off, and they were excellent. Really stepped up their game from last time I saw them. Very heavy. And just a really great performance, and it was a really good opening heat. I was kind of not quite as involved and enjoying it as much as I would normally do, because I was your apprentice for the night, wasn't I?
You were, yes.
Yeah, I was following you around, learning the cameras and what to do and what not to do in readiness for heat 2 when you wasn't there. But 4 great performances, and like I said, that was a tough draw for any of the bands involved, because especially for someone who's fans of all 4. But well done to Hereward and Dead Flesh on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember it being. I think the thing I said exactly the same thing as you thought there, which was really good crowd for that first heat, and I was wondering if it was going to continue, and it's been okay. It's never. I don't think we've ever had the same numbers as what we had with Heat 1.
Heat 2 apparently was better attended.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, and then Heat 3 will come to obviously later. I think it was a really nice weekend, and that might have affected the turnout a little bit. People staying at home enjoying the sunshine.
But yeah, all bands did really well. I mean, All to the Sky is a band I don't know too much as far as their music and their set. Performed really well, but didn't really in my head stand out for any wow factor for me, as far as something that was just absolutely blew me away. Millstone, seen them so many times, and I personally felt it was probably their weakest performance I've seen of theirs. And now they've actually got to semi-final last year, and having seen them multiple times, it just felt that there wasn't that. I don't know what it was. There might have been a lack of chemistry on stage, or something was off with them. But I've seen them play so many times and heard James' voice so many times. It just didn't seem to be quite gelling when I watched them that time around, and I think that may have been a factor because I've seen them so many times, and I think they are a really, really good band, but that just wasn't working at that particular gig. Very, very good.
I thought Millstone did well. I really enjoyed Millstone. I thought they were great. I thought James's voice was great. The overall sound was really good as well. It's a real shame for them, because I thought they did a really, really good performance, and they were unlucky. I think all of these heats are going to be really tight if we was to have access to scores.
I think it depends on what you're looking at. So if you look at just purely from a musical point of view, it all sounded fine. When you watch them from a performance basis and you watch the interaction on stage, that's where normally there's a lot more play off of each other, and they felt a little bit isolated on there. So I think there was just, it almost felt like they were in their own minds and in their own bubbles. And it felt like James was trying to keep it going and pulling the strings to keep it. That's just an observation. But as I said, I'm a big fan of the band. So, disappointed obviously they weren't able to. Hereward, seen them multiple times, still delivered the goods. And Dead Flesh, came out of the blocks and just kicked ass, I think, really on the night. Kirk, your thoughts on Heat 1?
Bit of a backstory. I was absolutely smashed when I arrived. I'd been on a bender in Leeds, and didn't get to sleep until 5 in the morning.
Do we need any more story on the Leeds?
Yeah, I met a woman. So she's going to come to our show actually in Cambridge. You know, our inaugural ADK.
Oh, the inaugural one, yes.
So yeah, I'll be bringing her to that in Cambridge.
Here first.
Heard it here first, Kirk.
Heard it here first. Exactly.
We haven't asked her yet, but she can watch this video.
Cleaner, she's going to come. Yeah, she's apparently coming to organise it. So there's one ticket sold. Sorry, I will get to the point.
So I'm making you pay as well.
I was a bit hammered. I remember most of the night speaking to Ricky Keneally, the drummer from Sentient, about Death, the band, and also the impact of Destroyer Rays improved by Meshuggah. We were both absolutely drunk. And also Rick Hunter Burns, he was one of the judges for the night. He's the bass player in that band, Night Thieves. And he's like me, he's originally from East Lancashire. So I spent most of the night networking or just talking to people, probably annoying them.
Talking bollocks, basically.
When I'm drunk. But unfortunately, I miss Millstone. I really like that band. So I couldn't vote for them because I missed their performance because I turned up late. I thought Alter the Sky, Helen, one of the best performers on the scene for me. Always great musicianship in any band she's in. And yet I didn't vote for them though. I think it's because their music, I'm so used to that kind of music. I really enjoy it. Just relaxing with a beer and just swinging my head. But it's not the type of thing I'd go out and buy, whereas Dead Flesh were phenomenal. Come on, they even got a Wall of Death going. I thought Richard Stevenson's presence on stage, even Rick Hunter Burns said to me, he pointed at Richard, he said, now that is a guy with charisma. He was on his game, wasn't he? That was extreme metal with a capital E. They got everyone going. Hereward, good outside bet to win this competition. I don't think I need to say they've upped the game. I've seen them so many times, including at St. Neots last year, and they've always been on it for me. So seasoned band, they mix melodic death metal with traditional heavy metal and a bit of groove in there as well. Good sense of humor, good interaction with the audience from the vocalist. But yeah, Dead Flesh, as soon as I saw them, a bit like when we saw last year's winners, Sentient, I was thinking, are these the band to beat? And I would say that they are, given the ferocity of that performance.
Definitely the crowd favourite, Kirk, weren't they, on the night? I think Dead Flesh.
Yeah. People just really got into it, didn't they? Really unleashed a lot of their demons, I think.
They were. I mean, if you look at it that way, I would say out of all the bands, they're the local band. Yeah, out of those four, Millstone are also local, but Hereward's Cambridge as well. So they definitely have the most interaction with the local people. Heat 2 was Black River Dogs, Kadama, Basement Puppets, and Buried on Sunday. So I wasn't there for this one. So Andy.
Yeah, busy night for me because I was looking after the cameras and the mics. I was also judge as well, but I managed to fit it all in, and another really good heat. I think Black River Dogs kicked things off, and listening to their EP this week, there is a definite similarity in style and performance and songwriting to our friends in Lowdown, who obviously competed in Heat 4. I really enjoyed them. You know, I thought they had a real chance to progress. Three-piece, good songwriting, good musicianship. You mentioned sort of stage performance interaction, Dave. I think they were lacking with that because I think they were just a three-piece with a vocalist and guitarist. So he's got limited opportunities to sort of get around the stage. But really enjoyed them. The Basement Puppets, really not my sort of thing. They were kind of Indifferent Engines, illegitimate love child, you know, sort of that kind of alternative screaming, you know. I mean, that is decent performance and probably good at what they do if that's your sort of style of metal, but it wasn't for me. But I think Kadama were excellent, really good. Mike Goring on guitar in particular, he was absolutely loving every moment. You could see how much he's enjoying it. He was windmilling and headbanging and interacting with the crowd, and really good performance from them. And you know, they did get my vote from the judges' perspective, as did Buried on Sunday. I mean, if I think back to my scores, they were all very close. Particularly the three bands I mentioned that I particularly like. But Buried on Sunday, see these guys a few times. They're a little bit different from the norm for what we see at Melt to the Masses, but they've got a real good mix of, really heavy material and sort of more accessible sort of rock. Kirk, I recently listened to your interview with Toby and Rob, and you asked them to sort of present sort of half a dozen songs that best represent them from their album, and that was a really good reflection of what this band are all about. So again, it's when we get to the point of choosing who's going to be our finalists and perhaps ultimate winners, it's going to be really hard because at this stage we've got some excellent bands through to the semis, and really enjoyed that heat as well.
What about you, Kirk? Were you at this one?
Yeah, I was. I'll pick up on that band, the Basement Puppets. One of the strangest artists I've ever seen on a metal bill, and I mean that in a good way. Imagine The Fall and Joy Division with that 80s shred metal band, Dokken. That guitar player George Lynch, got the greatest vibrato technique in the history of electric guitars. So the six stringer was just shredding his way through this standard tuning hair metal. The bass player should have been in a post-punk band, and the vocalist, he was just really interesting. He was just doing stream of consciousness, spoken word over the top, and the drummer was really energetic as well. So I spoke to them after. I bought the vocalist a pint of Guinness, and I just said, "You remind me of that 1987 Faith No More album, Introduce Yourself."
Because you had to get Faith No More.
Roll for sugar. Celtic Frost in the next segment, yeah?
They will be in the next segment. So it does remind me of when Chuck Mosley was in Faith No More. This is pre-Mike Patton, and you've got 5 members who could all be in different bands, and it's all anchored around Jim Martin playing Metallica and Slayer riffs. So strange. So they didn't get my vote. I think they're from Welling, but I would definitely go and watch them again and be interested to hear anything that they record. Kodama, for me, are like Dead Flesh, joint favourites. We know that these are an absolute killer live band. You're right, Mike Goring. I said to him outside, I thought that was something you do on MTV videos that you can't really do on stage. Spinning your head and thrashing away. It is a sight to behold. It just gets you in the mood. We always mention the drummer from this band. He was on top form as usual. A lot of it with him is his footwork, isn't it? He is absolutely spot on when it comes to keeping time and precision. And well done to him for bringing in a new bass player who'd only practiced with them once before that gig.
Oh, yes.
They were on top of the form. I think the vocalist is excellent in this band. He's got a real presence. Now, Dave, you disagree with me. You think that because he circles around the stage, that's a distraction. I like that. When you see him on the monitor.
I didn't say that.
I'm sure you did last year.
2 years ago.
But I think it might be because
of Broken Tooth is the one who prowls the stage.
Broken Tooth's the what Broken Tooth does now.
I think with you though, it's just where you've set up your cameras, isn't it? That's what. Sometimes I know you.
Previously, no, when he first did it, there was an element of that. But in the last 2 years, when I have seen Kodama, he's much stronger.
Yeah,
he's very much like JB from Sentient.
Yeah, exactly.
Commanding
presence with them. Did you notice, Andy? I'm sure it was either feedback from the mic, but they played a lot of new songs. There's a lot more thrash metal in them now. They've still got the groove. Was it me, or was he actually doing a bit of that deathcore pig squeal technique, or was that some kind of feedback from the mic in the new song?
Honestly, can't remember.
I hope it's feedback.
Well, it just doesn't sound like Kodama. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I do think that Buried on Sunday are another band where they've got a good chance of winning this. Unfortunately, I missed part of the set because I was outside with Chris Stroud talking about Necrophagist, and then we were talking about an ADK question, where is the youth of today? And Chris was saying that the queercore scene is where it's at in terms of DIY bands and the hardcore scene. So I missed some of their set. I've seen this band so many times. Great band. Toby's a great musician. Rob's a great singer. Just remind me, sorry, I've missed the band. Who was the other one that was on the bill? Basement Puppets.
Black River Dogs.
Great performance. One of the best guitar tones. Pentatonic blues rock with elements of crunchy doom. Yeah, the stage presence, it's hard, isn't it, when you're a 3-piece? I thought they let the music do the talking, especially the vocalist and guitar player. But he was an excellent, he really operator of his guitar, rocked out, unlucky not to go through.
Heat 3, we had Broken States, Stranger, Planet Fatale, and Tempest Saint. Again, it was a heat I unfortunately couldn't attend. So, Andy.
Broken States kicked this one off, and I thought they were excellent. only their second gig. I'll let Kirk put them in the genre, but I really enjoyed their set. Older gentlemen, I'm sure they won't mind me saying that. So I'm sure they've all been in bands before, but this is their second set, and it was a good performance. They were up against some tough opposition. I mean, all these heats have been tough. This was tough for them as well, but I really enjoyed them. I think next up was a stranger. Now I've seen these guys a couple of times. I've really tried to sort of get into what they do. It's kind of progressive, mathcore, very technical, and you cannot, understate their musicianship, the guitar playing in particular. Can't think of the gentleman's name, but Stephen on guitar and vocals on stage, right? He's doing double tapping on the fretboard and singing, which is a skill in itself. And his colleagues is equally as proficient on the guitar as well. They're really good at what they do, but it's just not really my style. And because of that, I think people will probably agree with me. And it's not accessible enough for them to perhaps be up against sort of more traditional metal bands. But it's not taking away anything from their what they do and what they produce and their skills. Planet Fatale were next. One of my favourite local bands. Recently played their 100th show. I mean, that's some achievement as well with their in their current guys. Anyway, they can add even more to that in the early days of the band. And much to Leslie's displeasure, my girlfriend, they only played one song from the previous Cycle Repeats album. There was 4 brand new tracks. One or two I think I'd heard before, but there were 2 that were certainly brand new to me as well. And they've upped the sort of the stakes regarding the power and the heaviness of their tracks. And from first listen, I really enjoyed the new songs. That doesn't always work for me. New material, it takes a few gigs and a few listens for new songs to sort of cement, but they really hit home, the new songs. So excellent performance as usual from them. Sound was excellent, and pleased they went through. Up last was Tempest Saint. Well, I think really surprised everybody, as I said in my sort of review video. I think I found out they were kind of sort of traditional heavy metal, but the vocalist was fantastic. He's got such a range, such power in his voice, and there's a couple of notes where were the ear shattering. The high note that he hit on those songs, and they're catchy and accessible, and again, really good musicianship. And I'm looking forward to seeing them again because they're a new band on me, and I really, really enjoyed their performance. And well, credits to them for getting through to the semis. Looking forward to seeing them again.
Probably best to pick up with A Stranger. So the 2 bands that got my vote in Heat 3 were Broken State and A Stranger. The issue you've got with A Stranger is they're playing really abstract, intellectual music, aren't they? So it's like post-hardcore. What
you're saying is everyone else was dumb.
No, it is. It's deliberately like that. Though. Hence, it's called mathcore, isn't it? No, it is. And when you listen to it, it's like At the Drive-In, Dillinger Escape Plan. But they've also had some great moments of eerie vocal harmonizing that reminded me of Radiohead, Kid A. So it's quite obtuse. That some of the way that they're playing heavy music. There was some really interesting offbeats from the drummer. They all enjoyed the show. The vocalist doesn't have much interaction with the audience. He leaves that for Stephen, doesn't he, on guitar when he's doing his finger tapping and screaming. Fascinating band. To me, these are a band I always want to listen to on record when I see them live. But I can understand why it's going to be they're going to find it difficult coming up against traditional heavy metal bands. Most people in that audience, are used to listening to Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. How many of them are going to really know Botch and Converge and Dillinger Escape Plan? There will be a lot that do. There'll be some who just wouldn't gravitate towards that. Broken States, if that was their second gig, they were excellent. Dave, you would like them. Cleansing Era Prong, 1994, really short, syncopated guitars. Yeah, probably in the mid-40s. They look like a metal band. Cargo shorts, long beards, short hair, all of them filled out. It's like as soon as he came on stage and the bass player, you saw him playing bass. Is what?
Short hair and filled out, fat and bald.
How dare you say that? How dare you?
Sorry, guys.
Very masculine.
One of you.
as soon as I heard the bass player, I was like, this is my type of music. I thought they were sensational live. Got a great crunchy guitar sound. I'm disappointed it didn't go through. I think they should enter it next year, wherever it's going to be held. Luton, Cambridge. I don't know where it's going to be, but they've got definitely a good future. And I think they've got an EP coming out.
I think it's going to be at the new Club 85 if it's ready.
Hopefully, yeah.
From what I understand, it will continue in the new location.
Looking forward to it. The other two bands, traditional heavy metal, Planet Fatale, excellent. Their new material, they've taken an influence from Master of Puppets by Metallica. So they're still playing some of that grungy blues metal with a bit of Black Sabbath and even some stone riffing, but they've upped the tempo for some of these songs. And Helen seems to be using the word motherfucker quite a lot in the choruses of the new songs as well. So they were on top form. Like Andy said, 100th show. Phenomenal achievement. And then I enjoyed 10%. I recognized the guitar player from another band that we all saw at Hertfordshire Corn Exchange. She was supporting Burdensome. Can't remember the name. The guitar player was wearing a Judas Priest t-shirt. Great vibrato technique. 4-piece, so when he was shredding, the bass would play the low end parts and it felt natural. Yeah, the vocalist, there were some moments where the guitar player was he must have been playing like E minor pentatonic and even higher, and the note from the vocalist was matching it. That's something that Chris Cornell does on that Soundgarden 1989 album, Louder Than Love. Obviously, it's something that Iron Maiden are famous for as well, as Judas Priest. But yeah, they were excellent. Probably one of the toughest heats to judge that. Heat 3. I was a judge on that night, and wow, that was one hell of a task to find only 2 out of all 4 bands. Any one of them could have gone through on the night.
Okay, so we get to Heat 4. So that was the one that was just only a few days ago. So we had The Forsaken, Dialect, Acts of Vengeance, and Lowdown. Andy?
Another great heat. Rounding off the heats of this year's competition. Echo what you said earlier, Dave. I'm liking this format. I think with 8 heats, 4 semis, 8 heats, 4 quarters, 2 semis, and a final. I mean, that's 17 events. You get fatigued at the end, and especially when you're involved in it as you are, particularly, and me trying to get to as many as I can, is a bit of a slog. So I'm liking this format. Remind me of the
The Forsaken.
Last week.
Forsaken. Yeah. Seen these guys a few times. They're Cambridge based. I think they put on a really good show. I particularly like the young lad on guitar. He was really getting into it. I think he was moonwalking at some points, and he was spinning around. He was really interacting with the guitar. Bit of showmanship. So that really helps. I like the guy on vocals as well. There's some passion and some stories behind the lyrics of his songs. I think I know a bit of his personal history, so that was really good. I really enjoyed them, and they were followed by
Dialect.
Their opening song is very familiar because they gave it away when they performed a few years ago. It was like a single track CD, and I grabbed myself a copy. And My Stepson absolutely loves the opening riff. He's not a metal fan. He's only 10. But we've got a video of him bopping away in our car to that riff, and it's really that was their strongest moment for me. They're up against some tough opposition, so they had a challenge to get through. But they performed really well. Again, it's not my kind of sort of metal, if I'm honest, but good performance. Acts of Vengeance. Seen these guys as well a few times. Played majority of the new EP that we recently reviewed, which is out later this month. I think Marty's guitar playing was excellent. He had a great sound, and solos in particular. What they are lacking, I think we mentioned it when we were doing the review, is when they do these tracks live, are they going to miss the sort of second rhythm guitar, backing up the solos? And I think that's quite apparent on Sunday. But another really good performance, and I'm glad they progressed. But best performance of the heats, I think, so far was saved for last, and that's our friends in Lowdown.
Yeah.
The classic Sleep, which I think's had a bit of a reworking. That finished off the set. But there's 4 tracks, I think, from the new upcoming EP. I mean, we all know what a great frontman Dave Runham is. add to the fact that his vocals and his guitar playing as well. But from the frontman role, he's upped his game even further. On Sunday night, the interactions with the crowd, you just warm to this guy. He just eludes rock star at times, and obvious shoe-in for the semi-finals and I think further. But yeah, really good heat to finish it all off.
Yeah, I mean, you've covered pretty much what I was going to say. I mean, I really enjoyed The Forsaken. It was the first time I've had a chance to see them. Very much my sort of music. Lots of groove in there. It's a balance of hard rock. There's some grungier elements in there. A bit of groove metal.
Bit of Killing Joke in there. Did you not think?
Bit of Killing Joke as well in there. I mean, the guy's got a lot of anguish in his vocals.
Anguish, yes.
There was one thing I would say. I mean, the biggest challenge they had was they were obviously the first band on the bill for the night, and it was very quiet at the start of the night. A lot of people arrived during Dialect's set. I noticed loads of people while Dialect were playing, people started coming through the door, and you could tell that. So when he was trying to do his interaction between songs, it was very, very quiet. And we'll come on to about the whole opening band stigma or the issues you might have as being an opening band in one of these contests, but really, really enjoyed their set and how they all work together. Dialect, I missed them the last. I don't know if I've actually seen them before. I may have, but I just can't remember. I think I did, because apparently I filmed their set 2 years ago at Metal to the Masses, but I can't remember it. But
we interviewed them. I interviewed them on this channel last year.
I think you did the interview as well, yeah. So one thing, some really good songs, and actually Anna was going, "Oh, is he out of tune vocally?" I went, "I think it's a lot of it's intentional. He likes to move within the notes, and he doesn't like to kind of have this constant sort of hold a note and keep it. He likes to move around and express himself, which can be a bit of a risk because it can sound like you're kind of just wandering all over the place. But I actually quite like what they do. Acts of Vengeance, as you said, Marty, great solos. Definitely missing that second guitar when I was watching them, and didn't like to use the stage. They kind of, that problem with being a free piece is they were very static the whole time in their positions. So really, I had all the cameras, and we could have literally just left the action camera in one position for the whole evening and just left it there. So I think that would have been my biggest challenge around some of the bands, is just get yourself moving. That's not just Acts of Vengeance, that's a lot of bands about use your space, use your stage. And then Lowdown came out and just kicked everyone in the nuts, basically, with an absolute blinding performance. Thoroughly enjoyable. Put a big smile on my face, and it just sounds great. I mean, that they've really dialed in their sound, and I think could be a hard one to beat, personally. Kirk.
Yeah, there's an interesting story with The Forsaken. So, charismatic vocalist playing bass, looks the part. He's got the high cheekbones, doing it, but he just looks like a rock star. To me, he looked like someone from the punk scene from the mid '80s, possibly. The guitar player to his right is his son. So you've got a father and son in the same band. I think that's an incredible story. And what an honour that must be for both of them. And I imagine that will enhance the relationship even more. Yeah, do you know, they also had quite a good shredding lead guitar player, didn't they, that band? Yeah. He was doing some really technical finger tapping patterns. So I couldn't really... I agree. I think you would say edgy hard rock, like gritty hard rock, bit of grunge in there, punk rock, and then even a bit of traditional metal, especially some of those riffs. But it was just, I just heard Killing Joke in there as well. So first time I've seen them, I would definitely watch them again. I'd want to hear them on record as well. I don't know if they got maybe the bass might have been a bit too loud in the mix for me, unless they did want that like sludgy guitar tone. I just got the impression that wasn't intentional, considering that they're playing gritty hard rock. So didn't get my vote, but I would definitely watch them again. The next band on surprised me, Dialect. I actually thought that was the most passionate performance of the night. The vocalist, that guitar player, I will be shocked if he is not a teacher of that instrument. His technique is superb. Look how often he was just using his little finger when he was the shapes on the fretboard. He made it look so easy. There was some stunning guitar solos. They've got a bit of new metal, groove metal, and traditional heavy metal in there as well. with metalcore breakdowns. I thought the vocals, I think you're right, Dave. He takes a lot of risks, the vocalist. I never thought he was out of key. I think it's more about emotion. The guy can sing. You only have to listen to the last song, which is about mental health struggles, which is quite a poignant song. I just thought they had a good interaction with the crowd. I thought they were up for it. The bass player I interviewed last year was superb. He was spinning his head. I thought he was going to snap his strings. He was leather in his bass guitar. So they surprised me, and the drums were spot on as well. Really fantastic performance. Do you know when you watch videos of the 80s and 90s and there'll be people outside a Slayer gig and everyone just goes like that? As soon as I heard Acts of Vengeance, that guitar tone, I just felt like going, Acts of Vengeance! You're right, very static on stage, but they're so technical, and I have never heard a guitar tone as crunchy as that at a venue like Club 85. Thrash metal, who gives a shit about the other instruments? As long as that guitar is razor sharp, a bit like on And Justice for All by Metallica, don't care about the other instruments. It's true, the drums should have been louder. They were a bit
and Andy's left the building. Andy's
the
gone.
guitars were sensational. Honestly, I was just playing air guitar for the whole of that set. Martin, he's playing some wildly technical music there. Sub on bass as well for a three-piece. I don't think they suffered that much through having no rhythm guitar player. They were just, it was just riff after riff. Now, we'd heard that EP earlier on in the day, and now I've seen them live. I think I'm going to enjoy that EP even more. These are going to get my vote all the way through. I just love that era of thrash metal. It's basically 1985 thrash metal with a bit of 90s death metal. Vocals were quite good as well from Martin. We had one or two reservations, didn't we, about that snarling Dave Mustaine voice? Not at all. I think the raw moments of this band remind me of Venom, who Andy doesn't like. Venom fucking ruled, especially those first four albums, and these have got a Venom in their sound, so they definitely got my vote. And then Lowdown, I think you need to be watching Dave Runham if you're a performer saying, how do I get to this level? He is absolutely at the top, the higher echelon. The voice, the guitar, the interaction with the crowd, the new songs, bit even heavier, a lot of galloping, alternate palm muting, of course pinch harmonics, not as much blues in there. I think they've gone in a bit more of like of a Mastodon direction possibly as well. Some stoner rock elements. They were fucking brilliant. Sorry for swearing, but I've got to say. And the bass player, I thought that he was really up for it as well. I love that when the bass and guitar player go up to each other and watch each other playing and admire each other. Great to see that. Spot on. Ant Pinnell, what a musician. One of my favourite guys in the scene. I think everyone likes Ant, don't they? He's just one of those guys. You meet him once and you can get on with him. And he loves being up there as well. And those songs are not easy to learn. Dave Runham wrote most of those songs, and he's had to come in after they've recorded All Hail the Riff, the EP from last year, and he's playing them note for note. So yeah, these are one to beat. I think the three favourites, Dead Flesh, Kodama, and Lowdown. In terms of stage presence and songwriting, you can't look further than Lowdown. These guys are phenomenal at the moment. They just keep getting better, and I don't know how.
Kirk's put his three finalists forward then. We have to talk about the semi-finals first, Kirk. You can't just jump straight to the final. So just so people may not be, well, they should be aware if you're watching this, but our semi-finalists are Dead Flesh, Hereward, Kodama, Buried on Sunday, Planet Fatale, Tempest Saints, Acts of Vengeance, and Lowdown. Now, we don't know which semi-final each of them are in, so we could turn around and pick our four that we think will be the finalists out of this. And they could actually all be in the same semi-final, which means that automatically two of them are going to get knocked out. So we really don't know. But we'll get to that in a second. But what's really interesting for me, I wanted to cover here, was the fact that, so in the heats, it was 50-50. So 50% judge vote, 50% audience. Now we're at the semi-finals. I think that goes to 70% judge, 30% audience. So the audience vote doesn't make as much difference. Now, apart from Hereward, I think all bands that played the fourth position got through in the heats. So Dead Flesh played last, they went through. Buried on Sunday went through, and they were the last. Tempest Saints went through, they were last. Lowdown, they were last.
Yeah.
So how many of that was because people turned up during the second band or the third band, picked their band, and then when they got to pick their second choice, the only other band they'd seen was the finalist, the final band. Because you said you didn't vote for Millstone because you hadn't seen them, because you didn't arrive during their
I
set.
couldn't. Yeah, exactly.
So when we look at
a lot of people will have that view. I mean, I've heard that discussion. You know, I like whoever. I missed their set at the beginning. You know, they were open and I missed them, so I couldn't vote for them, which is a real shame.
But I think with bands like Hereward did open on Heat 1. However, a lot of people in the Dead Flesh fan groups will know who Hereward is because they've played on bills and so forth. So there's an automatic that you may have picked them as your second choice. I just think it's one of those ones where if you don't come through at the beginning, then it's a real challenge, because if you get given that first slot, how many people you want to have that final slot? You want to be band 4 because you know you're going to have the bulk of the people there. Everyone's going to wait to the end to see who wins. So you've got the best chance of getting through if you're in position 4. If you're the first band on the night, you're basically buggered.
That's what happened to Attila last year.
Yeah.
Came from Cambridge, didn't bring anyone. Fantastic performance.
First band on.
They didn't go through.
Because I noticed it with the Forsaken, it was really, really quiet. Dialect went on, and then all the people that came to watch Acts of Vengeance arrived during Dialect sets.
Yeah, they brought a lot, didn't they? Acts of
And they
Vengeance?
all arrived during Dialects. They all missed the very first band. So there's no way on earth that first band was going to get their secondary votes.
How about this, Dave? I've heard this mooted before, this idea. If you arrive after the first band starts, you don't get a voting slip.
Yeah, I would put that in there.
I would agree with that, because it's not fair.
It's not fair.
You know,
You need to see all 4 bands.
legitimately, you might not make the first band, you know, or the beginning of their set, and people do have this mindset of, well, I can't vote for them. I don't even know who they are, so I'm not going to vote for them. So instantly, the odds are stacked against you, aren't they?
Well, the thing is, we saw it in like one of the London venues, which is it used to be free entry, and you got a vote when you did it. But if you bought a ticket, you got a second vote. So why not do, if you buy a ticket, you get the vote for the band that you bought the ticket for. But if you turn up before the first band plays, you get a voting slip as well. And then you can pick, so you basically get a bonus vote. But you have to be there before the first band starts to get that extra vote. That could make a way to it, but I do think it's not fair for some of these bands that go on first, because you're really having an uphill battle at that point. Because otherwise,
I wouldn't want to go on first. Yeah, I mean, Andy, imagine if Nomadic Rain. I know you obviously we know most of the people that may actually be there. Would you want to go on first?
I think third would be my favourite slot, because if you do watch the first band, people who do watch the first band then go outside, they might not be back in for the beginning of the second band set.
Because here's an idea. If Heat 3, if Tempest Saints had been on first and Broken States had gone on fourth, do we think Broken States would have gone through?
Yes.
I think they would.
Was that close? Yeah. Was that Must Kill headlining? Because that was the one.
Yeah.
There was one heat.
Yeah, it was.
That heat, they asked Must Kill to do an extra song just so they could recheck the figures and do the vote, count the votes again. So
I would say if you took any of the
third,
if you took some of the bands like Acts of Vengeance, put them on first and put the Forsaken third on or fourth on, but after Lowdown, they may have gone through because of So it's one of these things that just because if you haven't
Acts
seen
of Vengeance brought a crowd though, didn't they? They did. They had more people there than any other band.
And that's why these heats are really important, because it is about who you bring. You can get through the heats on your audience vote. You can't get through the semi-final on an audience vote. So this is where people have got to up their game now. So what is it you reckon? So we've got these 8 bands that are going to be competing in their 2 semi-finals. What do these bands now need to do? Because there are some clear favourites we can see. There are some bands here that we would have automatically, when we saw these lists, we were like, they're going to be in the final. But for the other bands that maybe are not on that list, what are these other bands got to do? And of course, all these bands have got to do to get to the final, in your opinion. Quickly, I'm going to go to Andy first. What do you reckon bands need to do? Analyse
what they did in Heat 1. You know, I think you touched on some of the sort of crowd interaction and the between-song banter. It really sort of disappoints is the wrong word, but when somebody tries something with the crowd and you get 0 back, you find you feel heartbroken for the vocalist. You know, can I have a cheer for ABC? And it's like,
yeah,
tap your hands, come on.
No, the best one is
circle
pit, and then no one responds.
Come forward, everyone come forward a step, and nobody does. You know, you've got to look at that kind of thing and maybe eliminate that if you're sure if you're not sure you're going to land it and make it work. One question I always have is do you stick to the same set or do you mix it up a little bit? I would say go with the same. There's arguments for either. To be honest, I don't know.
It depends if it worked. If it was a strong set and you performed it really, really well, and you think it's going to be a game changer that can win you it, then go for it. If you've got the ability with enough songs in your set to be able to go and swap something out and do something special with it, I would definitely try and do that as well. If you've got because in the heats you should be putting forward your strongest songs at the heat to get through that. So you might change your outro song, or you might try and do something slightly different if you can kind of do it. But you always put your best songs forward.
Yeah, I think apart from being on top of your game as much as you can with practicing and make sure your equipment's all right, just look at your previous performance, take away the positives, look at the things that didn't go quite 100% and work on those.
How about you, Kirk? What would you suggest bands need to focus on or do differently, or etc.?
First of all, every band that's gone through, the musicianship levels are already high. So I think they've got that in the bag. They don't need to be analysing that microscopically. What about crowd interaction? Do you remember Lowdown last year had those beach balls, didn't they? And they would toss them into the audience. And I think that worked. Kodama gets some Nerf guns and start squirting people with water. Would that go down well? I don't know. Would it be seen as a gimmick? The other thing as well, if you look at Dead Flesh, they've now lost one of the guitar players, Michael Worsley, aka Grandad. How are they going to do it? I mean, to be honest, it's so down-tuned. What is it? In drop F, 7-string guitars, caveman riffs. You could probably get away with it. Maybe they might want to consider giving Adam or Tom a call from Everest Queen, just saying, look, can you come in, play these monstrous down-tuned riffs just to give us some extra low-end on the day. So I don't know, that might work against them. So they've got more to think about than any other band. But in terms of a general answer to this, I would say crowd interaction, and Andy's right. If it didn't work in the first one, circle pit, don't do it until you're absolutely sure. I mean, maybe watch what Dead Flesh do. How do they get a reaction? Is it just because they've got more friends than anyone and they're the local heroes of the Hitchin and Stevenage scene? It might be, but they're doing something, and other bands might want to watch that as well. So how do you up your game, I guess, is a rhetorical question, isn't it? But I'll just repeat, the musicianship levels will take care of themselves. They're already high. So I don't see much room for improvement in that area. What do you do to get that extra 10% that's going to see you over the line? Crowd interaction, and somehow getting the crowd to participate. Do you go and walk amongst the crowd and scream in their face like Tom Clement? Do you go, if you're the bass player, and start windmilling and playing along? Think about these things. I don't think that ever works against you if you go into the crowd and you're confrontational, and it takes some guts to do that. So maybe that could be something else to do. And then finally, Andy, change your set? I don't know. We know all those bands in there, don't we? So from our point of view, it probably would be a good thing if they threw in, take a risk, throw in an extra song, a new song. Buried on Sunday did that last year. They've got so many songs in their locker as well. Again, good outside bet. Great songwriters. They are a band, by the way. They just get better every time I see them. Buried on Sunday, and they're now reduced to a 4-piece. So it'd be interesting to know what they've got up the sleeve leading up to the semis. And I think I've exhausted every cliche there.
Yeah.
Up the sleeve, over the line. Mentioned about 7 cliches in one paragraph.
Okay, I mean, from my point of view, from what I've seen, because it's quite interesting. I never sit from the floor to watch them. So I don't ever get into the point where you just kind of rock out and listen to music. I'm always analysing what's going on the stage to see what's people doing, how things are going. I would be, as a band, I would look at all your pauses. So between every song, how long did it take you to switch over? How many awkward pauses? How many uncomfortable silences were there? Why were there silences? Was it because someone was changing strings on a guitar or tuning? Did you really need, while that one's tuning, did the other guitarist, could they not have done something? How do you get your segues? And this is all about your stagecraft. And this is a scoreable thing with the judges. You guys know, as judges, you're looking at your stagecraft and your professionalism. So these are the two. You've talked about music completely correctly. They're all where they need to be musically. There are only, apart from the drummers, because the drummers can't do anything about this, there are only 3 people that I personally you will disagree. I'm sure you'll add other people into this, but there are only 3 people that I personally think don't need to do anything as far as to get ready for the semis. Everyone else have got things they could do, and that is the 3 that don't need to do anything are Dave Runham, Richard Stevenson, and Mike from Kodama.
Yeah, exactly.
Those 3 guys have nailed their stagecraft. They know exactly what they need to do, and they deliver it every single time. You see Mike, he knows how to move the stage. He gets his windmill and he interacts with the crowd. He interacts with the guys on stage. Dave Runham, exactly the same thing. Interacts with his bandmates, but also interacts with the crowd. Richard Stevenson works the stage, works the crowd. But if you take those guys out and just watch the rest of the band, and I do encourage people to, especially bands, go and watch what goes on, because the problem is if you're in the crowd, you're watching the singer and you're following him around the stage. But if you stop and watch what the rest of the guys are doing, they're playing to each other, and that's a problem for me. Because if you then go and watch bands in concert, your big bands, those bands don't play to each other, chatting to each other, wandering around the stage. They are all also delivering to the audience. They are all doing stagecraft. And I'd like to see the rest of the bands out there working on their stagecraft. So whether that's the guys in Dead Flesh working their crowd, as well as Richard. So how are they engaging? When they're doing those sludgy drop down riffs, etc., how are they engaging with the crowd on the front of those cabs? Same with Kodama, you've got Mike doing it. I can't remember the other guitarist's name. He's quite static quite a lot of the time. So where's his interaction? Where's his body movements? So I'd be really looking for that. And if I was getting to the final, and you're talking about Simon coming down, looking for those bands, he's going to be looking for who are the strongest stagecraft guys. Who are the guys that are going to get every member in that band delivering for the audience, not just the singer. The singer may carry it if it's just one, but I would definitely be sort of looking for that, because those 3 guys I've mentioned, Mike, Dave, and Richard, slam it out of the park every time. But if you take them away from the band and then look at the rest of the bands or members in the band, is their stagecraft, as far as their stage performance, delivering to the audience? That's the main thing you want to have a look at. And then in regards to the rest of the bands, because I'm sure you'll have brought up people like Toby from Buried on Sunday, etc. maybe. But again, there are elements of that, but look at the whole band as a whole. And I think every band should go back and have a look at that and think, how are they going to do their Acts of Vengeance? We talked about in the thing about they're quite static. So how are they delivering to the audience? Because that's a really key part of getting to the next stage in their career. And a lot of that's feeling comfortable on your instruments.
Do you not think the bass, I tell you, does stand out for me, the bass player from Hereward? He works the audience, doesn't he? Just watch Hereward.
He does. Do you know one other band that wasn't in this competition but does a lot with what is Heathen Kings? They're another band that do really well at working the audience. I'm not a big fan musically; it's not really my sort of thing. But when you watch them, they really. I mean, the bass player in Heathen Kings, he likes to do the old Steve Harris bass runs and shit like that. But again, it may not be the right sort of stagecraft, but they are understanding what they need to do about stagecraft. Who are our 4 finalists? Who do we reckon, if depending on how the draw is going to be? So. You've already mentioned, Kirk, you said Dead Flesh, Kodama, Lowdown. Who would be your 4th then?
Well, the one I want would be Acts of Vengeance. That doesn't mean that they will make the final, because, like you said, they are a bit static. I think it's because it's so technical, the guitar playing and the bass playing, so intricate. You can't, Mike Gorin has shown you probably could actually windmill, but that takes years of practice when you're playing your instruments to that high degree of musicianship. 4th one, I think Hereward. So I'm going to go for. We don't know the draw. Let's assume that they're not that.
We don't know. We could go either way.
Yeah. Lowdown, Dead Flesh, Kodama, and Hereward for me. I think will be the finalists.
Andy.
Lowdown, absolutely, 100%, no problem. Kodama as well, just by their performance and their sort of heritage, as it were. What we know of them and what other people know of them. Again, it all depends on the draw. But if we're ignoring that, those 2, I think Dead Flesh will. Although I'm going to be quite controversial, they are my least favourite out of these 8. I know they're the sort of local favourites and everything, and we talked about Richard Stevenson's skill, and he is a really good frontman. I thought that from the moment I saw him 6-7 years ago in Cerberus Unchained, and he was much younger man there, and he just had so much confidence
Yeah.
and authority on stage. I just, it's just not my type of music. It's just a bit extreme even for me. You know, my favourite track of theirs from the EP is "Swallowing Nails," which is by far the slowest track. The rest is just a bit of a blur, live and on record. But I think they will get through. As for the fourth spot, it's a close one for me between Hereward. I agree, Kirk. You know, they absolutely smashed it from the opening heat. You know, really, really up their game from previous times I've seen them. Obviously, I'm a big Planet Flaytail fan, and I'm really liking the new material, and Tempest Saint as well. But so, do you want me to pick another? Do you want me to pick one of those three?
Go for your fourth. Yeah, go for your fourth one.
Planet Flaytail. Planet Flaytail.
Planet Flaytail. Okay. So for me, I think it will be Dead Flesh, Kadama, Lowdown, and Buried on Sunday. Will be my 4, I think.
Good choice.
Which is a combination, effectively. This is the finals for the last 2 years, effectively.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
pretty much in one shape or form. Well, apart from Dead Flesh, this is their first final. But
did
Kadama,
Dead Flesh not get to the final?
Huh?
Did they get knocked out in the semis in 2020?
Semis, Dead Flesh were knocked out in the semis.
Right.
Kadama did the final 2 years ago. Lowdown, Buried on Sunday last year. If the Hereward was in there, then with Buried instead of Dead Flesh, then it would have been effectively the final from last year, just with Kadama replacing Sentient.
Yeah, you're right about Buried on Sunday. I was thinking it's probably between them and Hereward for that fourth spot. We all agreed, aren't we? I think Dead Flesh, Kadama, and Lowdown especially. That is just nailed on. You know, it's as obvious as Labour winning the next UK general election, isn't it? We know it's going to happen.
I mean, as we said, these 4, all the 4s we picked, could just suddenly appear in the semi-finals altogether. So suddenly, what you could find is that you could have Planet Faytal, Tempest Saint, Buried on Sunday, and Acts of Vengeance in one thing, and suddenly you know that 2 of those are definitely going to be in the final. So this could completely blow it out of the water, and then it's down to just Simon at the end to pick.
Yeah.
I mean, if Simon had the pick, if you were to say out of all 8 bands, and Simon had to choose now out of these 8 bands, who do you think Simon would pick for Bloodstock?
Kadama for me.
You reckon Kadama?
Yeah.
Lowdown.
See, I think he'd go Dead Flesh.
He likes it. He does like it heavy. He likes
extreme,
doesn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't always. Remember, he didn't put Kadama. He had the choice at the final last time with Kadama, and Kadama didn't even get as a reserve placement. So the reserves were Praetorian and who was the other reserve?
Rays.
So Rays and Praetorian were put as
backups,
and Kadama didn't even get a mention in it. So I don't think he's into that kind of clean heavy. So if you have that and Lowdown. The other thing, one thing I would also want to mention about Lowdown is out of all the bands, I love the fact that they have a unified look. They actually look like a band on stage. Everyone else just looks like a bunch of blokes in t-shirts. They've just got on stage and started playing with each other.
That's a big thing for you, Dave, isn't it? You mentioned this before.
I mean, I don't want them all to have like stage costumes, but I do want you to kind of look like you're in the same band together. Sometimes it's not just about wearing band t-shirts with Metallica or whatever you want to put on it, or some scriggly writing that says apparently looks like you dropped Tipex over the top of your t-shirt.
It is if you're a death metal band. You just wear jeans and metal band t-shirts, don't you?
Which is fine, but you're never going to capture my imagination as far as the look of the band. So
it's different as well.
I love the fact they've spent. I also love the fact that Dave Runneman has spent so much time focusing on delivering a concise plan for Lowdown. You look at his social media, look at what he's delivering now. His TikTok, his little short reels.
They're signed as well. They're the only band.
He's worked really hard for what he's doing.
Yeah.
So I'm always really impressed with his work ethic. And I know Lowdown have got something similar going on. Although say Dead Flesh have got some work going on with their PR as well. So there's a lot of good success going in with the bands in this one, but it's really hard to call. Unless it'd be a lot easier if we'd been given the semi-final listings today.
Yeah,
we'd probably be able to take those semi-final listings and tell you who would be in the final, especially as it's 70-30 judge split. But unfortunately, we have no idea. Although, to be honest, this video is coming out on Sunday, so by then they'll probably have announced it and we'll have no freaking clue. But yeah,
Dave, one question I asked in the judges group is, are they going to sort of split if anybody sort of went through on the same heat, are they going to be separated? That'd be the logical way of dividing up.
Yeah, that's
bands,
true.
So you'd have like Hereward in one, Deadflesh in another, Kadama in semi one, Buried on Sunday in semi two, Planet Fatale in semi one, Tempest Saint in semi final two, Acts of Vengeance in one, Lowdown in two. That would be the sort of the football analogy, a way of sort of making the draw. But whether it's down to availability or whether they draw out the hat like the FA Cup, I don't know.
To be honest, if they did that, that would make it life a lot easier, because that would mean that our final list is possible. Because none of these guys have played together on the same bill already. So if they were in the semis, they'd be split up. So you'd end up having something like Deadflesh, Kadama, Planet Fatale, and Acts of Vengeance on one, and then Lowdown, Tempest Saints, Buried on Sunday, and Hereward on the other. Which means, in theory, Buried on Sunday, Lowdown could go through, Kadama and Deadflesh could go through, and that would make my finalist one. And so it is possible if your theory actually ties up. So who knows? But we should also mention well done to Styx, because Styx has been doing all of the heats as well on sound, whereas previous years you've had different sound guys. So
yeah, you did well, Styx.
So well done to Styx and Ruben for doing lights as well. And he's done a lot of work on the lights. And he had a concussion a few weeks back. Heat 1, I think he had a I shouldn't laugh. He had a concussion. He was not with it. Anyway, we should really crack on. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. If you stayed around for this 1 hour episode that we've just
it was only meant to be 20 minutes.
It was meant to be a 10-minute summary, for fuck's sake. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on another video sometime very soon. Take care.